from the NowMedia Radio newsroom in Houston and simulcasting in real time to the world. This is NowMedia News with Sherman On and Matey Bay-Steris. Be ready. Be in the moment. Be in the now. NowMedia News starts now.
Here with NowMedia Radio.
And this is Maite Ballesteros, and today we're going to start the news with an event or an incident that has shocked the world and has caused protest in several cities around the U.S., and that's the death of George Floyd, who died in police custody after being subdued for several minutes. And with us, we have Officer Lee. We're going to connect with Officer Lee in a few minutes, or in a minute here. And we're going to talk about George Floyd's death and the incident that took place.
All right, is Officer Lee, are you there with us? Trying to connect with him via technology.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Officer Lee, for taking time to join with us today.
Thank you for joining us, Officer Lee. And it's so sad to hear that these things continue to happen. And I wanted to ask you, do you consider to be inappropriate the use of force, this policy that these officers used to subdue George Floyd?
The excessive force that the officer used was totally against policy. It was clearly against humanity as well as the legal law of the land as far as peace officers or any type of officers that's on duty.
Why did the other men that were there didn't do anything when they saw the incident? I mean, obviously, George was there lying on the floor and was saying that he couldn't breathe, he was lying there. The officer had his knee on his neck for several minutes, approximately 7 minutes, and no one did anything about it. What do you think about that? Is that also part of the police department policy?
Yeah, well, no, that part's definitely not a part of it. It seemed like a personal vendetta or whatever it might be, whether it's racism or something else of a different matter, bad day, what have you. But normally when the first officer is on site, he's usually one in charge unless he's in lower rank. If he has a supervisor or a lieutenant or what have you that's outranked of the first officer showing up on site, then he backs off. But apparently this guy was a senior officer and the first one on site. I don't see any stripes on his shoulders or his sleeves, so apparently he's just a typical police officer. But he's the first one on site, what I'm imagining, and everyone else that shows up is supposed to support that, keeping the crowd away, waiting for the ambulance or whatever they were waiting on to show up. But it's totally out of candor for any type of law enforcement officer to react and do things the way he did it.
And Officer Lee, according to my research, the police officer, Derek Chauvin, was caught on camera kneeling on the neck of George Floyd, but also he has been subject of 10 conduct complaints and 3 police shootings that led to no disciplinary action during his 19 years on the job. What do you think about that, Officer?
I think that's the writing on the wall. Most of the officers usually have some type of discipline in their background. It's only a matter of time before it shows up where they're actually terminated or it affects their livelihood going forward. It's actually another chance for them to kind of get it right. But when you have that type of malice or hatred in your heart, then it's going to reappear over and over again. And hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. They've been fired but not indicted. So that's an issue right now.
The other officer, Total, had been seen in video and also has past allegations that include police brutality and a lawsuit. And it seems that not a lot has been done about that. So do you think that we can anticipate a change in this dynamic? And do you think that Derek Chauvin should be charged?
I think that he should be indicted and sentenced to whatever the maximum is, in my opinion, as well as I think that this is just the beginning of the city burning down or being destroyed if the matters are not taken quickly. to resolve this matter. I'm just trying to figure out how he was terminated from his position or his job and not in jail or arrested, as the governor or the mayor stated.
Yes, that would be also my question. Why these police officers have not been arrested after the incident?
Normally, they try to give them time to make sure that they cross all the T's and dot the I's, to make sure that there's a warrant for arrest, because with the arrest comes an indictment. That means they have enough information with internal affairs to be prosecuted. Although they work for the law, but they broke the law, so to speak. But that's the delay right now. But they could speed it up a little bit, because if it was you or I, then we'd definitely be behind the jail walls right now.
So, Officer Lee, for the public that aren't aware, what is considered appropriate use of force that a police officer is trained to be able to utilize in order to subdue people who might not be, I guess they're willing to kind of go along?
Well, we're all trained for de-escalation skills at whatever level. And when he shows up, he has a protocol, whether it's a traffic stop or a warrant arrest. He has a protocol to follow. And if he doesn't follow that, then he's violated his swearing in of being an officer. Secondly, when he does get there and uses de-escalation skills and the subject doesn't cooperate, so to speak, and where he has the option of using his personnel around him to either tase him or stun him. But in this case, he was unarmed. He was on the ground. He already in a position for arrest. So there's no reason why they couldn't put the cuffs on him, stand him back up, or sit him down where he could breathe. There's no reason for that.
Gotcha. So now that the FBI, that's kind of the breaking news that recently got announced, is that the FBI has now come in to take control over what's happened. Does that help this kind of move along and getting some resolution for the family?
Yeah, it's a temporary feeling to let them know that things are in progress and moving forward on their behalf, but it doesn't give doesn't make the family feel warm and fuzzy at any count to think that this situation has been resolved, because the matter at hand is just another incident on a long level or a long range of corruption for police departments and blackmail, so to speak.
Yeah, unfortunately, this seems like the Minneapolis Police Department, this is something that's a little bit more systemic, and something that they're unfortunately not unfamiliar with is kind of the racial targeting of some of the community members by police department.
Yeah, it's racial profiling is what we call it. It's typical. A lot of stuff with the social media and the way the society is with cameras and cell phones and all, it's hard to get away with a whole lot that you used to get away with the good old boy system, so to speak. So everything is always being scrutinized and you're being recorded for everything. So you have to stay in your lane and do things properly. The ones that the older or the more seasoned agents or police officers that's used to doing dirt and sweeping it under the rug, it's coming to light now because of the way technology is.
Right. Well, thank you so much for providing this insight on kind of where the police should really have taken it and would have had a much better outcome, and obviously not the fatality of George Floyd.
Absolutely.
So we expect that justice
particular moment,
will be made, especially after President Donald Trump asked the FBI and the Department of Justice to expedite the investigation. So we hope that justice will be made for George Floyd's family. And we will be back in a couple of minutes after the commercial, so stay tuned.
Hi, this is Scarlett Horton. You may remember me from the morning news. We know that finding the right team for your painting project can be overwhelming, and if not done right, a painting project can easily go over your budget. At CertaPro Painters of Central Houston, our professionals will ensure your residential or commercial painting projects run smoothly and are convenient for your schedule, leaving you time for what matters most. CertaPro of Central Houston has been serving the Houston metro area for more than a decade and has a solid reputation. You can read reviews from our clients and see examples of our work on our social media pages, letters of recommendation, website, and Google reviews. Additionally, at CertaPro Painters of Central Houston, we warranty our work for 2 years. We offer free color consultation. We do residential and commercial jobs, interior and exterior, and we are licensed and insured. Not to mention, we are experts in painting cabinets. CertaPro is the largest painting contractor in the USA. Our crews are not only qualified and skilled painters, they are the best at what they do, and we are always on time. Let our experts at CertaPro of Central Houston transform your home and business. Our proven process gives you more time to enjoy moments that matter in the spaces you love. Alfredo, Mallory, and John are experienced professionals who will work with you every step of the way to ensure a flawless finish. Call us today at 713-824-5166 and let CertaPro of Central Houston handle with ease, efficiency, and high professionalism your next residential and commercial painting project, because the world needs color.
In this digital age, conventional business cards are a thing of the past. In fact, most people lose them in minutes of having received them. The NowMedia Video Business Card is recorded with cutting-edge technology designed to be sent out quickly and easily using your smartphone. It features your contact information, summary of all your company's products and services, as well as giving you a fresh and innovative look. Hundreds of companies are already seeing the difference. Call us at 832-384-9588.
Bacteria and viruses like COVID-19, as well as indoor toxins, are a serious and sometimes deadly risk for your children, your loved ones, and your employees. Earth Blue Systems is the solution that ensures a seamless sanitization and odor elimination process by using ozone, nature's powerful and safe oxidizer. As a matter of fact, there are no known bacteria or viruses which are resistant to ozone and its oxidizing effects. Ozone is one of the most powerful disinfectants available, eliminating the need for harsh chemicals or detergents. Ozone gas from Earth Blue's process leaves absolutely no residue. Clothing, bedding, and linens will be sanitized and smelling fresh and clean, but most importantly, sanitized. Food is not harmed. In fact, ozone is approved by the FDA as a food additive preservative and is commonly used for water purification. Earth Blue Systems technology is a less costly alternative to other methods of solving mold and air quality issues. Take a strong and decisive step to keep your family and company odorless and safe. Contact Earth Blue Systems at 713-419-7506.
Welcome back to Now Media News. This is Sherman. President Trump signed an executive order today after the outrage that he had regarding Twitter, who were looking at suppressing and fact-checking some of his tweets. And so what this allows is more limited liability for social media companies like Facebook and Twitter, who are under the protection under Section 230 under the users' posts. And so this allows basically under Section 30 a less overarching reach. And so a lot of politicians actually agree with this more liability that the Facebook and others, Twitter and social media companies have, in that making sure that they are being more in check and making sure that their algorithms aren't just allowing certain things to be shown, and thus in a sense swaying or in a sense filtering out what the public is meant to be hearing, and thus, in a sense, censoring the different posts out there. So that's a big deal of what President Trump has put out there as an executive order today. I know that other politicians have agreed with this move, and so it'll be interesting to see how this ends up playing a role on the various posts that start coming out, the algorithms that they have. And these social media sites are looking at ways that they can make sure that they work within the politics as different things like this occur. I know Facebook in the European Union is looking at ways that they can have a much more collaborative relationship. Obviously, they played a major role in Egypt and also Greece in regards to some of their politics. And so they want to be able to make sure that they're doing something that's impactful and influential, not just it's being seen as one-sided towards one party or another or one group over the other.
Yeah, that's right. I think that in a recent interview, Mark Zuckerberg talked about the First Amendment and freedom of speech, and how Facebook will allow anybody to post the content that they want to post, unless it's damaging or endangers somebody. So I think that the executive order is appropriate. So we'll see how that evolves in the near future.
Absolutely. And this definitely starts rolling into the realm of the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, that is really over the oversight of communication as how it's communicated to the public. And ultimately, these social media sites have grown far beyond, I think, some of their imaginations. Obviously, 2 billion users on Facebook.
Right.
The President Trump has over 130 million followers between his social media sites. And so it was a way that he could leverage social media in talking and communicating directly with he considers to be his voter base, and circumvent the typical media and really control his own narrative. At the same time, it's been a way for him to be able to kind of lash out at various politicians, other business individuals, and so not necessarily been used for good, but definitely it's one of those things that has a lot of reach. And so it needs a little bit more of guidelines and regulations to be able to make sure that things are being properly communicated to the public in a way that's not biased.
Exactly. And we have more protests in Hong Kong and the conflict with China. What's happening in Hong Kong, Sherman?
So unfortunately, what's happened is China has started to remove some of that autonomy that Hong Kong had after they're under the British rule. And unfortunately, what's occurred is that now Pompeo and the EU, Secretary, they view it that Hong Kong is no longer an autonomous political entity. And with that, there are a multitude of people in Hong Kong that are protesting. Pepper spray has been used. People have been arrested over this. This is a big deal for those that are in Hong Kong. They had a particular freedom of speech and representation, and that's being taken away as China continues to put their overarching political arms over them. One of the major concerns, though, is that as they're making that overreaching arm, the EU, various European countries, the United States are deeming this as kind of a not good thing from the perspective that they're going to start maybe even creating sanctions, economic sanctions. It's going to affect trade. Donald Trump did say that he plans to address what his take is on the relationship with China because of this. So this only creates more tension between U.S. and China relationships.
Yes, indeed. And American and Delta airlines are preparing for potential massive layoffs. According to CNN, there is going to be massive layoffs in October. Approximately 30% of the workers will be laid off.
And this comes as, unfortunately, due to stay-at-home orders and ban on travel internationally and domestically, and a lot of corporations just not going to turn around and start sending their people out during this particular time. That travel is down 90% of where it used to be, despite some of the reopening of various countries and states in the United States. The travel still is amazingly low. American Airlines, that would equate to somewhere close to around 5,000 employees that they're looking at having to unfortunately lay off. The PPP only gave them a certain amount of benefit, and so unfortunately we're coming to really the end of this. The CEO of American Airlines has vowed, though, that they will not go bankruptcy is not something that they're looking at as an option. They want to be able to see what they can do to continue to stay viable, and this is just one of the many airlines around the globe that's struggling with this, right? We know that Germany offered a $9 billion buyout of Lufthansa, but unfortunately the board actually rejected it because it didn't think it would give them the nimbleness, the flexibility to be able to come out of out of this in a good fashion. We know that Bain Capital in the United States looked at offering to buy Virgin Airways in Australia. So there are many companies out there globally that are also going to be facing the same struggles that we are here in the United States.
Okay, and bad weather postponed the historic SpaceX Crew Dragon launch. And with us today, we're going to connect via Skype with Dr. Pamela Gay, and we'll see if we have her. Dr. Pamela Gay?
Yes, she is on right now.
I'm here.
So we are ready to hear from Dr. Pamela Gay. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I wish I was here to talk to you about how they had just docked with the International Space Station, but instead, well, we can talk about what didn't happen and what we have to look forward to on Saturday.
So explain to people who aren't familiar, why did this get delayed, and why is the weather such an element to be considered when launching the spaceship?
Well, with the International Space Station, it lives above everything, but unfortunately, you have to fly through the clouds, the upper level winds, and all of these different aspects can add turbulence to your spacecraft as it's taking off. With the Falcon 9, which is the rocket that carries the SpaceX Crew Dragon, you have even extra wind constraints. So as you're going up, you don't want anything to accidentally tip you sideways more than the rocket can compensate for. And Falcon 9 has its stage 1 actually come straight back down and hopefully land successfully on a barge. Now, the high-level winds were high, the clouds were high, the rain was pelting, and making it worse, out to sea, there were high waves. The capsule is designed so if it has to abort, it has a certain ability to be able to accelerate and decelerate, picking and choosing where in the ocean it comes in for a landing during an abort. The particular path of the Demo 2 was going to carry the mission up along the east coast and out north towards Ireland. And the ocean, well, had the remains of Tropical Storm Bertha off the coast of the Carolinas. And the weather in general was pretty bad out over the Atlantic. So they were looking at not just problems directly overhead where they were trying to launch, but also issues out at sea where they wanted to be able to safely recover the astronauts if they did have to abort and land in the ocean.
How is the weather? What do you think that we have 2 new dates, Saturday and Sunday, as tentatively the dates to launch the SpaceX Crew Dragon? How does the launch look so far for Saturday and Sunday?
It currently doesn't look good for either day. Telling the weather out that far in advance is always iffy. It is hurricane season. This is Florida in May. Going into this, many people were predicting multiple delays due strictly to weather were going to face this mission. And we're looking at iffy weather throughout the weekend, unfortunately. But there's always hope that they could be wrong in the direction of everything will be clear and grand. We're just not hopeful at the moment.
All right. So then, for as you might know, what does the crew do as they keep getting delayed? Is it just the kind of waiting on pins and needles?
There's a whole lot of waiting on pins and needles. There's talking to their friends up on the International Space Station. There's bets going on with this particular mission, and I'm sure there's a certain amount of good-natured astronaut to astronaut jibing going on. These 2 particular astronauts are both experienced. They're both military pilots. We're looking at Robert Benkin is from the U.S. Air Force, and Douglas Hurley is a U.S. Marine pilot. And they're both experienced with going to space in the past. But on board the International Space Station, there is a U.S. flag that was left there by the last space shuttle crew to go on STS-135. And that flag was left there for the next set of U.S. astronauts to launch from U.S. soil. And there's a certain amount of we can't wait to get there and get that flag. And of course, I'm sure the Boeing guys on the side who are waiting to launch with the Starliner are like, hey, keep delaying long enough and maybe we'll get there first. There is no chance that's going to happen. But these are the kinds of things that human beings talk about, and we can only speculate is going on right now.
Absolutely.
And for those that didn't tune in yesterday, can you talk about the new aspects of the suits and the design of the capsule, the new capsule versus the old days, the capsule in the old days and the suit in the old days?
Well, this is very much, to those of us who grew up on the space shuttle, it feels very retro. The last time that folks here in the United States launched with a capsule instead of essentially a glider was with the Apollo missions. And just like the Apollo missions, this is a return to land on the Earth in the ocean and get rescued by boats. We're hoping not to see that until they come down after a successful visit to the International Space Station. But to get on board, they ride that elevator all the way up to the top, climb across the gangway, and sit there waiting to take off. But these new capsules are nothing like the Apollo era space capsules. They have touch screens reminiscent of the Teslas. They have much more comfortable seats, a lot more open space, because when you don't have 10 million little toggles and switches to manually change, it really cleans up the cargo experience. Now, flying with them is a little tiny stuffed dragon that is going to be their zero-G indicator. When that little stuffed dragon floats up, it means they have escaped the, pull of gravity that we feel here on Earth as they've begun to fall around the planet and experience microgravity. In addition to this, their new spacesuits are much more streamlined, much easier to get in and out of, but they do have one odd side effect. They can't tilt their heads back. So when the astronauts are standing out there getting ready to board their rocket, they actually have to bend their knees and sort of pivot back at the waist as their head is unable to tilt. It's just an amusing side effect of what happens when you make a spacesuit easier to put on and integrate the helmet into the torso of the spacesuit. They also are no longer driving out to the launch pad in the old van that was so iconic. Instead, each astronaut was taken out in his own Tesla. The Tesla, though, does have a throwback to the olden days where they have resurrected what is referred to as the NASA worm logo. This is the NASA logo with all the letters nicely curved out as though made of worms. This is a logo that hasn't been seen in many, many years and was actually strictly against all branding documents to use. But as we return to space, we are returning to an old style logo. Now, the capsule itself, in addition to having a much more like you're driving a Tesla feel to driving your spacecraft, it also has many updated technologies. The abort system isn't just a rocket strapped to the nose of the capsule. It's actually integrated into the capsule, again, having these steering features. They don't have solar panels that they have to worry about safely deploying. Instead, the solar panels are configured into the sides of the spacecraft. You can see in the video on your screen just how clean and beautiful those new spacesuits are and how very science fiction they appear to look. On the back of those Teslas is that worm logo. The blue logo with the swoosh that you see on the side is referred to as the NASA meatball. Now, these spacesuits have both the NASA and the SpaceX logos on either arm, reminding everyone that this isn't just a government contract to design and build a rocket on spec for NASA. This is NASA contracting a company to use its rockets to serve NASA's purposes. It's a slight difference, but it's the difference between, old space with Boeing building rockets and new space with SpaceX delivering rockets. Subtle but important.
Absolutely. So is this why is that so significant as you look at the history of NASA and getting man beyond Earth?
Well, this is starting to say NASA, which is in many ways a research company, is now shifting its emphasis away from innovating how to get to low Earth orbit and saying it's time for us to start allowing the commercial companies to take over low Earth orbit and handle that for us. We're now going to work on developing, well, how do we get to the moon with Artemis? How do we get beyond and hopefully go to Mars in our longer term plans? NASA money is going to go to innovating new and further targets of exploration, while they contract people to just do the, well, taxi service back and forth to the International Space Station.
So at this point, Elon Musk's pipe dream of being able to have a colony on Mars, how close does this get him and the team?
Well, Falcon 9 isn't going to get us there. The real difference is going to come with the Starship that is currently under development down in Texas. It has recently had some successful test firing of its engines. It still hasn't made a hop, but they're gearing up to look at potential leaving the surface of our planet style tests in the coming months and year as they gear up to take upwards of dozens of people to to the moon before this decade is out. It's exciting times, but Falcon 9, it's just basically now that, hey, let's get it done, take people up, bring them down, let's stop innovating what works and move on to that next big thing with Artemis and Starship.
How long are Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley stay in space?
This is one of the great questions. Originally, it was only supposed to be for a few days. It could only still be for a few days, but there is talk that if everything is completely successful, maybe they'll keep them up there longer. NASA is holding its cards close to its chest on this one. The International Space Station is designed to have a full crew complement of 6 people. It currently has 3. And having those 2 extra sets of hands on board will mean it's just that much easier to do all the maintenance that is needed to keep that complicated machine, well, keeping people alive in space, and also that are needed to help doing all the science experiments that are needed.
So inside the spaceship, is there groceries? Is that what we're also bringing up there to the International Space Station?
They are carrying a load of cargo with them. There will be, as always, some fresh groceries in there. What is kind of awesome about how SpaceX is innovating is for many years we've seen the Falcon 9s carry the Dragon capsules full of cargo and sometimes critters up to the International Space Station. But with Crew Dragon, it can fly even without a crew. It's already been to the International Space Station in the past, this kind of a capsule carrying just cargo. Well, this time it's going with cargo and humans. And as we look towards the future, they can either do all cargo or this combination of cargo and humans, all with the same reusable type of capsule.
That's wonderful. Sounds like quite the advancement that we've gone from just getting man up into space and around the moon, and now we're actually being able to do it without even a human pilot. As we anticipate, maybe hopefully, fingers crossed, a launch on Saturday and Sunday. How long does something like that take? It's not just a typical fly, connecting flight to Denver.
So they're looking at roughly the next day getting to the International Space Station. The orbital period that they're on is roughly 90 minutes. They do have to sync their orbit up and adjust their altitude and the shape of their orbit to match with the International Space Station. This is going to take them a few times around the planet to do it safely and check out everything as they go. They can do it faster, but sometimes slower is more successful, and that's what they're aiming for.
That's wonderful. So really appreciate you coming on, Dr. Pamela Gray, and sharing with us what we can anticipate for SpaceX.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back soon, folks.
The right tax team is key to any successful business. At America's Tax Firm, our goal is to help individuals and businesses of all sizes with accounting solutions and tax strategies that yield profitability, sustainability, and growth. At America's Tax Firm, we have a team of experienced tax consultants and advisors that can help your company optimize business strategies to minimize taxes and reduce liabilities. From preparing and filing your personal or business taxes, or choosing the right legal structure for your business, to resolving complex tax issues with the IRS, America's Tax Firm is your turnkey solution. Take a strong and decisive step and let America's Tax Firm be part of your success.
In this digital age, conventional business cards are a thing of the past. In fact, most people lose them in minutes of having received them. The NowMedia Video Business Card is recorded with cutting-edge technology designed to be sent out quickly and easily using your smartphone. It features your contact information, summary of all your company's products and services, as well as giving you a fresh and innovative look. Hundreds of companies are already seeing the difference. Call us at 832-384-9588.
Hello, I'm Jose Hernandez, retired NASA astronaut, entrepreneur, and proud son of migrant farm workers. Our migrant families do very important work. Many follow the harvest and move frequently throughout the U.S. and thus have many needs. One way to improve your family's future is by participating in the 2020 census. The census only occurs every 10 years, but it affects public funding for clinics, schools, and other essential programs for our communities. Each person must be counted at the address where they live the most during the year. However, if you move frequently, don't worry. Simply fill out your questionnaire where you are living on April 1st, 2020. The information you provide is confidential and is not shared with other government organizations. The future of our families depends on you. So make yourself count before July 31st. For more information, visit the website 2020census.gov.
Welcome back, everybody, to Now Media News. Again, thank you, Dr. Pamela Gay, for coming on the show and sharing with us.
Yeah, and we have astrophysicist and Dr. Pamela Gay back with us here, connecting with us. And we're going to talk a little bit about her podcast, Astronomy Cast.
That I've been doing with co-host Fraser Kane since 2006, and each week we take our audience on a facts-based tour of the universe, exploring not just what we know, but how we know it. Last week's episode looked at extreme binary stars. These are systems where sometimes when they explode, they become brighter than the entire galaxy they occupy. And we try and break things down so that anyone who is interested in learning has the ability to learn complex topics and just find out more about, well, what it is that we're discovering during this new, I'm not going to say golden age, I think it's a platinum age of astronomy, where we're starting to figure out how planets form around other stars and how galaxies are forming in the early universe.
And where can listeners download that podcast, Dr. Gay?
So we are Astronomy Cast anywhere that you go to listen to podcasts, and you can even ask your, Alexa, I'm going to try and draw that out to not trigger them. I triggered mine. You can ask your Amazon, Google, or Apple device to play Astronomy Cast for you. And then, of course, go to our website, astronomycast.com.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Gay, for coming on and sharing with us what's happening. Look forward to the excitement happening with SpaceX. We're going to go more of the news, folks. Unfortunately, we're seeing a little bit of an increase here in the state of Texas, a 3.2 increase with COVID-19. Also, other parts of the country are continuing to see a rise. We are still under a travel ban to outside of the United States. Although there are some reopening, there are some glimmer of hope in some of the nuances that's occurring as we continue to open up part of our borders. Sports, theme parks are starting to open, and so that's exciting. the next race is really the vaccine and getting a lot of these pharmaceutical companies into human testing and seeing how we can find a successful vaccine that'll help eradicate this COVID-19 that's upon us. Unfortunately, recently found in Texas Children's Hospital was a multi-system inflammatory syndrome, MIS-C. It looks like it's linked to COVID-19. It says it's similar to the kamikaze disease in that it includes a high fever, rash on the chest, back, and abdomen, red eyes, and conjunctivitis, swelling, and inflammation of the mouth, lips, and throat, enlarged lymph glands on the neck, and redness and swelling in the hands and feet. So the thing to understand is that what we're experiencing with a lot of these diseases and that the mutation of COVID-19 is definitely sending a major problem to physicians and those that are treating patients. And so we want to be able to make sure that we're doing all that we can to suppress and flattening the curve, right? So reducing the ability for the virus to be able to pass. And so still would encourage as states are continuing to reopen, bars and fitness clubs are beginning to increase their capacity, is to be able to make sure that you're doing it safely. Make sure that if you need to wear gloves, definitely wear a mask when you're out and about, and that's going to be able to help us, due to social distancing, hopefully eradicate the COVID-19 that's upon us, not only here in the great state of Texas, but also throughout the world.
Yes, and speaking of new openings, the first Las Vegas casinos are set to reopen on June 1st. Several other tourist attractions across the country will be partially reopening and offering limited amenities, including the Coliseum in Rome, and I believe that Disney will open as well.
Yeah, so Disney announced that they're going to be reopening in July. That's what they're shooting for. Didn't give a specific date in July, but definitely your experience at the Magic Kingdom might not be as magical as you might think. The requirement to wear masks, a touchless pay system is going to be occurred. They're still going to be encouraging people to practice social distancing. So it'll be interesting to see what the teacup looks like if you're no longer allowed to be that close to people, and what those lines look like. So a lot of people that have gone to Walt Disney World or the Wild Kingdom, they were used to having these long lines and waiting for rides, and so that'll be an interesting engagement as you go about the Magic Kingdom. So also anticipate temperature checks before going into the kingdom.
Yeah, and another thing that will be required is cashless transactions to avoid the spread of COVID-19.
Yeah, so the last touching that's going to be occurring, getting closer, obviously, as we exchange money. That seems to be the major concern. And so it will really be, is this somewhat indicative of what we're going to experience when we go to theme parks or even sport events where there's a large gathering of people together, yet to be seen, as most MLB, the MLS, the NBA, the NFL, they might have announced that they're going to have a season. They just haven't given any details of what that's going to look like from a spectator's perspective.
Yeah, but what they're saying is that definitely temperature checks, reduced capacity, wearing masks, will be some of the guidelines that will be required.
Yeah, so look forward to that come this July as we continue to reopen the United States and for business. On other news, as we look at some of the parts of California, New Jersey, New York, in some of those major areas, they're starting to see an actual reduction. New Jersey actually had the lowest amount of deaths due to COVID-19 in the last day, and so that's exciting to be able to see where that's going to happen. And what we're going to do now, folks, is break for a quick commercial and come back with more of the news.
Hi, this is Scarlett Horton. You may remember me from the morning news. We know that finding the right team for your painting project can be overwhelming, and if not done right, a painting project can easily go over your budget. At CertaPro Painters of Central Houston, our professionals will ensure your residential or commercial painting projects run smoothly and are convenient for your schedule, leaving you time for what matters most. CertaPro of Central Houston has been serving the Houston metro area for more than a decade and has a solid reputation. You can read reviews from our clients and see examples of our work on our social media pages, letters of recommendation, website, and Google reviews. Additionally, at CertaPro Painters of Central Houston, we warranty our work for 2 years. We offer free color consultation. We do residential and commercial jobs, interior and exterior, and we are licensed and insured. Not to mention, we are experts in painting cabinets. CertaPro is the largest painting contractor in the USA. Our crews are not only qualified and skilled painters, they are the best at what they do, and we are always on time. Let our experts at CertaPro of Central Houston transform your home and business. Our proven process gives you more time to enjoy moments that matter in the spaces you love. Alfredo, Mallory, and John are experienced professionals who will work with you every step of the way to ensure a flawless finish. Call us today at 713-824-5166 and let CertaPro of Central Houston handle with ease, efficiency, and high professionalism your next residential and commercial painting project, because the world needs color.
The right tax team is key to any successful business. At America's Tax Firm, our goal is to help individuals and businesses of all sizes with accounting solutions and tax strategies that yield profitability, sustainability, and growth. At America's Tax Firm, we have a team of experienced tax consultants and advisors that can help your company optimize business strategies to minimize taxes and reduce liabilities. From preparing and filing your personal or business taxes, or choosing the right legal structure for your business, to resolving complex tax issues with the IRS, America's Tax Firm is your turnkey solution. Take a strong and decisive step and let America's Tax Firm be part of your success.
Welcome back to Now Media News. This is Sherman of Now Media News. And so you can tell these. Thank you for Jaime Barba of Texas Crime Prevention Agency for providing us these masks to be able to allow us to be able to continue to practice social distancing. Appreciate your work and that you're doing in the community. So really appreciate you donating these masks for us as well, so we can stay socially distant and safe during this COVID-19 times. Unfortunately, as we look at COVID-19, folks, it's taken over 100,000 U.S. lives at this particular stage. That's the equivalent of the entire city of South Bend, Indiana. And that's just occurred in the last 4 months. So it's a major concern as we look at what's happening here and wanting to flatten the curve and stop spreading the disease. Definitely the encouragement is to be able to make sure that we're practicing social distancing. And so we appreciate everybody that's out there wearing the masks. Although we know it is convenient and cumbersome for some, it allows us to be able to make sure that we go about in a safe manner. The other thing that we have a look at is on other news.
Yes, the 2020 Boston Marathon has been canceled and it will be held virtually. For the first time in its 124-year history, the Boston Marathon has been officially canceled, adding another blow to a region already hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic. More than 2 months after postponing the race until September, Boston Mayor Martin Walsh said Thursday that the marathon, which brings more than 30,000 athletes to the city from around the world, was not feasible this year.
So unfortunately, they're not the only one to have to cancel. Coachella announced that they're going to postpone and look at 2021 as the next launch of their musical festival. And so that's a major news as we have a look at people and getting together in large groups. And so as we look at what businesses are doing to be able to encourage social distancing, this is what the major concern is how are we able to make sure that we're able to meet together in these group settings in the way that's safe. I know that a park out in San Francisco, what they did is they actually spray painted circles on the ground, and so you could come to the public park, but you had to stay within a particular circle, and you couldn't get beyond that circle, and thus encouraging social distancing. Another major concern is that as you talked about the airlines, there's other businesses that are struggling to get out. The new labor numbers came out today. Another 2.1 million Americans have filed for initial claims of unemployment. Although the good news, the kind of the bright note on that is those that are needing initial ongoing. There's a difference, right? There's those that have initial claims for unemployment and those that are receiving ongoing benefits of unemployment. That number was slightly down for the first time since we started this pandemic, and so there's this small slight of glimmer of silver lining in this dark cloud that it looks like some Americans are getting back to work as many states are looking to reopening their borders.
Right, and for the tourism economy for Mexico and Europe, it looks like it's not going to be as big this year as it was obviously other years, and the tourism industry will suffer too, especially in those countries. The one bright side on a lot of this consumerism is as Americans are spending more time at home, they're looking at ways to be able to make sure that their home is more beautiful, it's more conducive to working. As many companies have announced that they're going to continue to be working from home, and one of our guests we'll be having in the next couple of days will be a chiropractor who'll be talking about what you can be doing that now that you are working from home. So be able to make sure that you're keeping your body in good posture, in good form, and avoid some of these long-term effects of working from home. Right, so, and some of the things that they are recommending is getting a lot of exercise and going outside, eating healthy, and yes, especially and avoiding large crowds. It's one of the things that they're suggesting that is good to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
In one of the recent reports Apple had put out, because it tracks your steps, not only if you have the Apple Watch, but also the Apple phone. And since the stay-at-home orders that occurred, walking as all Apple users, and especially in many countries like Spain and Italy and the United States, right, walking actually steps plummeted by over a half. And so people just aren't getting out like they used to, especially in places like New York City and New Jersey.
Right. Yeah. Even my family that is in Europe, and I tell them, well, now that you don't have as many restrictions as you did, a couple months ago, now that you can go out, do you actually go out a lot? And they actually say, well, no, we're not going out as much. It seems that they are getting used to that routine of being at home, doing activities at home, doing everything online or on television. And so, yeah, people are just, the dynamic is changing. A lot of people are starting to work more from home, yep, to spend more time with their families, to do a lot of the activities at home, online. So, yeah, we're seeing a different dynamic that's shifting right now.
And one of the things that our producer just put up was that Apple and also Google are coming together to be able to trace COVID-19. So it was announced here in the state of Texas that they're looking to hire over 4,000 tracers. And what that means is not people that are trying to hunt down people necessarily, but they're trying to make sure that we can get ahead of this curve from a public health perspective. And so this is definitely a nice silver lining on a dark cloud, where typically we've been reducing, unfortunately, the spending in public health, but now we're increasing it, looking at hiring at least 300 in Harris County to be able to help get ahead of this curve and hopefully reduce that individual that might have gotten contacted with someone that's infected with COVID-19, and thus encouraging them to self-quarantine. And so this is just another way to be able to make sure that we can battle this infectious disease, this virus, because one of the concerns is from the bat woman in China, and her job actually is that she studies the bats that actually infect humans. And like COVID-19, which was transferred from bat to human contact, and her concern is that this is just the beginning. And so now that we're a global economy, we're a global people, we travel all over the world, we have a tendency to bring these visitors with us. We might not declare them on our customs forms, but they are with us, and so it's a major concern. And so for her, her talk is to be able to make sure, and rhetoric is to make sure that we have a plan in place for pandemics and for things like this as we start reducing. And so as we look at thermal scanning for temperature, we look at masks, we look at gloves, we look at social distancing, this might be something that's going to be with us to stay for a while. So again, thank you for Jaime Barba from Texas Crime Prevention Agency for donating these masks for us, because these are necessary and they're going to be ever so crucial here in our community, Harris County. If people are unfamiliar, we're still encouraged to have stay-at-home orders until the end of basically, what was it, mid-June. To make sure that we reduce that. Of course, if you're an essential business or you need to get out, you need to get those needed groceries or those needed errands completed, please do. But at the same time, encouraging people to stay at home.
And wear a mask if they go out.
Absolutely.
Another news that we may tell those who are tuning in is that Google plans to open some offices in July. So we're expecting that even as some tech companies are telling employees to stay at home and work from home, others are planning to have a portion of their workforces back as early as this summer. So, for some people that have to go back to work and go to the office, I think this mask may be also useful. So we do things, the Texas Crime Prevention Agency, who gave us these masks, for giving us this masks, and we'll definitely use them.
Absolutely, we will. And so that's what we're starting to see. A lot of companies are coming out now and letting their employees come back to work in a safe manner. At the same time, they're not bringing everybody back, right? So I know locally, Phillips 66 is looking at bringing parcel departments back into the workforce and making sure that they're keeping with social distancing. They're making sure that those that might have a need at home from a health perspective, or they themselves are concerned about their health, they're given the flexibility to continue to work from home. And so it's definitely something that we're going to have to adjust to going forward, is how do we navigate at our own workplace, or how do we extend it to our employees to make sure, number one, that they have the personal protective equipment, the PPE, to be able to make sure that they stay safe and they feel safe when working at the office.
Yes, and also we have to advise them that there may be a second wave of COVID-19. We don't know for sure. It's not a fact, but they're saying that it could be a possibility that this virus, is something that is going to stay for a long time, and therefore we could expect a second wave of COVID-19. So we have to be prepared as well.
And that's really what it comes down to, the push for social distancing, the wearing of masks, the wearing of gloves, being able to make sure that if you do feel sick, you have a fever, you stay at home, you stay away from others, and making sure that that's the way that you prevent the second wave, right? Is avoid groups of over 10. And so as we do that, we're helping each other stay safe. Well, folks, that's the news. This is Sherman from NowMedia News, and this is
Maite Ballesteros, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Have a great day.